Listen, life is about growth. It's about evolving, transforming, and becoming the strongest, most resilient version of yourself. And that strength, it comes from within. It doesn't come from someone who broke you. It doesn't come from their apologies, their excuses, or their promises to change. It comes from you deciding that you are worth more than settling for less. When someone breaks you, when they shatter your trust, your heart, or your spirit, that's not just a mistake. It's a choice they made in a moment that revealed who they are. And let me tell you this, people don't break what they value. If someone truly cares, they lift you up, they invest in you, and they protect you. They don't tear you down and expect you to piece yourself back together just so they can try again. Going back to someone who's already broken you is like trying to drink from a shattered glass. No matter how tightly you hold it, no matter how carefully you handle it, it's going to cut you again. And it'll hurt worse the second time because now you know better. Now you know what it feels like to be hurt, and you also know you deserve more. But here's the truth that might sting a little. You have to stop blaming them for what they did and start holding yourself accountable for what you allow. You don't get to control how someone treats you, but you absolutely control how you respond. Are you going to stay in a cycle of pain and disappointment, or are you going to rise above it? You deserve someone who sees your worth without you having to prove it, someone who will stand by you without breaking you first. But you'll never find that person if you're clinging to someone who's already shown you that they're not it. The universe will keep giving you the same lesson until you learn it. And the lesson here is that your value is not up for negotiation. You are not we'll see you are not an option. You are the priority, and the moment you start treating yourself like one, the world will respond in kind, but that begins with a choice to never, ever go back to someone who has already shown you who they are. Forgive them not for their sake, but for yours. Forgive them so you can move on, but don't confuse forgiveness with an invitation back into your life. Closing the door doesn't make you weak or cruel. It makes you strong. It says, I love myself too much to let this happen again. Your story is not about the person who broke you. It's about how you rebuild. It's about how you choose to take that pain, turn it into power, and create a future where you thrive. A future where you look back and say, that was the moment I took my life back. So don't settle, don't second guess your worth, and don't look back at the door you just closed. Forward is where the magic happens. Forward is where freedom begins. And forward is where you'll find the life you've always deserved. Your value is non-negotiable. It is not something to be debated, questioned, or compromised. It's an inherent truth, something that exists simply because you do. Yet far too often we allow external factors, people, circumstances, or mistakes to make us doubt it. When someone treats you poorly, breaks your trust, or diminishes your worth, it can be tempting to internalize their behavior as a reflection of who you are. But here's the truth, their actions are about them, not you. Your worth doesn't fluctuate based on someone else's inability to see it. Think about the most precious diamond in the world. Its value doesn't decrease if someone overlooks it, doesn't understand its rarity, or treats it carelessly. It remains a diamond, priceless, unique, and irreplaceable. You are that diamond. Whether someone recognizes your brilliance or not has nothing to do with the fact that you are extraordinary. When you truly grasp this, everything changes. You stop seeking validation in others because you realize that your value is rooted in something unshakable, your own belief in yourself. But here's where it gets tricky. People will test this belief. They will mistreat you, break promises, or take you for granted. And in those moments, you might feel tempted to negotiate with yourself. You might tell yourself, maybe I wasn't enough, or perhaps if I change, they'll treat me better. But let me tell you something loud and clear. Your value is never dependent on someone else's approval or affection. You don't need to bend, shrink, or mold yourself to fit someone's expectations or standards. The right people will see your worth as you are. When someone breaks you or disrespects you, it's not a reflection of your shortcomings. It's a reflection of their inability to appreciate or value you correctly. Yet many of us fall into the trap of trying to fix ourselves after being mistreated. We think, what did I do wrong, or what can I do to make them see me differently? Stop right there. That mindset is a negotiation of your value. It's a quiet agreement to let someone else dictate how you see yourself. The truth is, people will only treat you as well as you allow them to. If you let someone chip away at your confidence, manipulate your emotions, or walk in and out of your life, they will continue to do so. Why? because you've sent them a signal, I will tolerate this, but the moment you stand up and say, I deserve more, the dynamic shifts. Suddenly you're in control and the energy changes. People who can't rise to the level of respecting your value will fade away, and those who can will show up differently. Knowing your value also means recognizing when to walk away. It's not always easy. You might love someone deeply, believe in their potential, or hope they'll change. But staying in situations where your value isn't respected only diminishes your own sense of self. It's like pouring water into a broken cup. No matter how much you give, it will never be enough because the container is flawed. The problem isn't you, it's that the situation is incapable of holding what you offer. Walking away isn't a sign of weakness, it's an act of self-respect. It's saying to yourself, I deserve better than this, and you do. The right people, the right opportunities, and the right experiences will never require you to sacrifice your sense of worth. They will align with your value because they see it clearly and cherish it. So how do you embody the belief that your value is non-negotiable? It starts with how you treat yourself. Do you speak to yourself with kindness and encouragement? Do you set boundaries to protect your peace and energy? Do you invest in your growth and happiness? If the answer is no, it's time to start. You teach others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. When you hold yourself to a standard of respect, others will follow suit or they'll be left behind. There will always be people who try to challenge your sense of self-worth. They'll come in the form of toxic relationships, unkind words, or situations designed to make you doubt yourself. But every time you choose to stand firm, every time you refuse to settle, you're reinforcing the truth that your value isn't up for debate. You're saying to the world, I know who I am, and I won't accept anything less than what I deserve. This isn't about arrogance or thinking you're better than others. It's about recognizing that you are enough just as you are. It's about knowing that your flaws, mistakes, and imperfections don't diminish your worth. They make you human. And being human is enough. You don't have to earn your value. You just have to own it. In life, there will be people who celebrate your worth and those who fail to see it. Don't waste your energy trying to convince the latter. Focus instead on those who honor and appreciate you. Surround yourself with people who lift you higher, who see your potential, and who inspire you to grow. These are the relationships that will flourish because they're built on mutual respect and understanding. Remember this, the world will reflect back to you what you believe about yourself. If you carry yourself with confidence and self-respect, the world will respond in kind. But if you waver, if you doubt your worth, the world will mirror that too. So stand tall, speak with conviction, live like, deep in your core that you are priceless, because you are. Your value is non-negotiable, and the moment you live by that truth, you unlock the life you've always deserved. People don't break what they value. This is a fundamental truth about human relationships and interactions. When someone truly values something or someone, they treat it with care, respect, and reverence. Think of the things you treasure most in your life. Perhaps it's a cherished heirloom, a rare book, or even a memory. You don't toss it around carelessly. You protect it, nurture it, and ensure its well-being because it matters to you. The same principle applies to how people treat each other. When someone values you, their actions will show it. And when they don't, their actions or lack thereof will speak just as loudly. It's easy to get caught up in words. Promises, apologies, and sweet talk can be incredibly persuasive, but actions are where the truth lies. If someone values you, they will make an effort to show it. They won't intentionally hurt you or take you for granted. They'll prioritize your feelings, respect your boundaries, and strive to build a connection based on trust and mutual respect. It's not about perfection. Everyone makes mistakes, but someone who values you will take responsibility when they falter. They'll show a genuine desire to make things right and grow together. When someone breaks you, whether it's by lying, betraying your trust, or consistently treating you poorly, it's not an accident. It's a reflection of their priorities and character. People make mistakes, yes, but there's a difference between a momentary lapse and a pattern of behavior. Someone who values you will feel the weight of their actions if they hurt you. They'll take steps to ensure it doesn't happen again, not because you demand it, but because they genuinely care about your well-being. On the other hand, someone who doesn't truly value you will either dismiss your feelings or continue the behavior, knowing they can get away with it. When you're on the receiving end of being broken, it's natural to question yourself. What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? These thoughts can spiral, leading you to internalize someone else's mistreatment as a reflection of your worth. But here's the thing, their behavior isn't about you. It's about them. People treat others based on their own values, emotional maturity, and capacity for empathy. If someone has the capacity to break you without remorse, it says far more about who they are than it ever will about who you are. It's important to understand that valuing someone goes beyond affection or attraction. Someone can care about you on a surface level and still fail to value you deeply. True value comes from respect, understanding, and a commitment to uplifting the other person. If these elements are missing, no amount of affection or attraction can fill the void. Love without respect is empty, and care without consistency is meaningless. When someone values you, they make an effort, not just in the good times, but especially in the difficult ones. They don't walk away when things get hard or put their own needs above your dignity and peace of mind. Now, let's talk about the difference between someone valuing you and someone keeping you around for their convenience. The two can look similar at first glance. Someone who keeps you around might shower you with attention, say all the right things, and even make you feel important in fleeting moments. But the key difference lies in their consistency. Do their actions align with their words? Are they there for you when it truly matters, or only when it's convenient for them? Someone who values you won't treat you as an option. They'll make it clear through their actions that you are a priority in their life. When someone values you, you don't have to question their intentions. You don't have to second-guess their words or overanalyze their behavior. There's a sense of security that comes with being truly valued, a sense that you're seen, heard, and appreciated for who you are. On the flip side, when someone doesn't value you, you'll feel it. You'll feel it in the lack of effort, the dismissiveness, or the way they take more than they give. And when that happens, it's crucial to remind yourself that their inability to value you isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their limitations. People who value you don't play games with your heart. They don't leave you questioning where you stand or make you feel like you're not enough. They uplift you, encourage you, and create a space where you can thrive. And most importantly, they don't break you. They don't hurt you intentionally or repeatedly, because they understand that valuing someone means protecting them from unnecessary pain. It means being mindful of their feelings and treating them with the care they deserve. The hard truth is this: if someone has broken you, they've shown you how much or how little they value you. And as painful as that realization can be, it's also liberating. It gives you the clarity to see the situation for what it is and the strength to walk away. You deserve to be with people who cherish you, not people who diminish you. You deserve relationships where your value is recognized and celebrated, not questioned or ignored. At the end of the day, people don't break what they value. They don't risk losing something or someone precious to them. And if someone is willing to break you, it's not your job to convince them to see your worth. It's your job to walk away and find those who do. When someone breaks your trust, your heart, or your spirit, it's natural to feel as though the damage is somehow your fault. It's easy to fall into the trap of self-blame, thinking, what did I do to deserve this? Or why wasn't I enough? But here's a truth that might shift your perspective. Broken trust is not a reflection of your shortcomings. It's a reflection of the other person's choices. Their inability to honor your worth, respect your boundaries, or treat you with integrity reveals far more about who they are than it does about who you are. Trust is a sacred bond. It's the foundation of any meaningful relationship, whether romantic, platonic, or professional. When you extend trust to someone, you're offering them something incredibly valuable: your belief in their ability to uphold your faith in them. It's an act of vulnerability and strength to open yourself up in this way, and it deserves to be met with the same level of care and respect. When someone breaks that trust, it's not just a betrayal of your expectations, it's a betrayal of the effort and belief you invested in them. Here's what's important to understand: when someone breaks trust, it's a deliberate choice. It might not always seem intentional, but trust-breaking actions, whether lying, cheating, or betraying confidence, don't happen accidentally. They are decisions made in moments when the other person prioritized their own needs, desires, or insecurities over the relationship. This doesn't mean you didn't matter to them. It means that in that moment, they chose something else over honoring your trust. And that choice is entirely about them, their values, their maturity, and their emotional capacity. One of the hardest truths to accept is that you can't control how someone else behaves. You can love them fiercely, show up for them consistently, and give them the best parts of yourself, but at the end of the day, their actions are their responsibility. You can't make someone loyal, honest, or trustworthy if they don't choose to be. Their decision to break your trust has nothing to do with whether you are good enough or whether you deserve better. It has everything to do with their own character. That realization can be both painful and freeing. Painful because it forces you to confront the fact that some people simply aren't capable of meeting you at the level of respect and integrity you deserve. Freeing because it absolves you of the burden of trying to fix yourself in response to their behavior. You don't need to change who you are to avoid being hurt in the future. Instead, you need to recognize that their actions are a reflection of their limitations, not your worth. It's natural to want to give someone a second chance. Forgiveness is a powerful act, and in some cases, rebuilding trust is possible. But it's crucial to approach this with clarity and self-respect. Ask yourself, is this person truly committed to changing their behavior? Are they taking responsibility for their actions, or are they making excuses? Trust can be repaired, but it requires consistent effort, honesty, and accountability. Without these elements, giving someone another chance often leads to the same pain repeating itself. The danger lies in internalizing someone else's betrayal. When someone breaks your trust, it's easy to let that wound seep into how you view yourself. You might start doubting your ability to judge character or question your own value. But don't let their actions define you. Your capacity to trust, to love, and to give of yourself is not a weakness, it's a strength. The fact that someone took advantage of that doesn't diminish its power. Boundaries are your greatest ally in situations like this. They are the lines you draw to protect your peace, your energy, and your self-respect. When trust is broken, it's your right and your responsibility to enforce those boundaries. This might mean limiting contact with the person who hurt you, demanding accountability, or even cutting them out of your life entirely. These decisions aren't about punishing them, they're about prioritizing your own well-being. It's also important to surround yourself with people who reinforce your sense of worth. When someone breaks your trust, it can leave you feeling isolated and unsure of who to lean on. Seek out relationships that are built on mutual respect and support. Spend time with people who uplift you, remind you of your value, and encourage you to heal. These connections are vital for restoring your confidence and belief in the goodness of others. Healing from broken trust is a process. It requires time, reflection, and a willingness to let go of what you cannot control. It also requires you to reaffirm your own value, independent of how others have treated you. Remember, you are not defined by the actions of those who couldn't honor your trust. You are defined by your ability to rise above it, to hold on to your integrity, and to continue showing up in the world with strength and authenticity. Ultimately, trust is a gift, and not everyone is deserving of it. When someone proves themselves unworthy of your trust, it's not your job to lower your standards to accommodate them. Instead, it's your opportunity to raise your boundaries, to demand more from the people you let into your life, and to ensure that your trust is reserved for those who truly earn it. Their betrayal is not your failure, it's their loss. And your worth remains intact, unshaken, and undeniable. You cannot control how someone treats you, but you have absolute power over how you respond. This is one of life's most liberating truths, yet it's often the hardest to embrace. When someone disrespects you, takes you for granted, or crosses your boundaries, your immediate reaction might be to question yourself. Why would they do this? What did I do to deserve it? How can I fix this? These thoughts, while natural, can trap you in a cycle of self-blame and disempowerment. The reality is simple, their actions are their choice, but your response is your responsibility. The way someone treats you says everything about who they are, their values, their priorities, and their emotional maturity. On the other hand, the way you allow them to treat you reflects how you perceive your own worth. Every interaction, every moment of disrespect or disregard is an opportunity for you to decide what you will and won't accept. When you internalize this truth, you step into a position of power. No longer are you at the mercy of someone else's behavior, you're in control of how you navigate it. It's easy to fall into the trap of trying to change someone. You think, if only I explain my feelings better, if only I show them how much I care, if only I give them another chance, they'll treat me differently. But the truth is, you can't force someone to respect you, love you, or treat you well. These are choices they must make on their own. When someone consistently chooses to treat you poorly, it's not a reflection of your inadequacy, it's a reflection of their limitations. And when you recognize that, you free yourself from the exhausting and often futile task of trying to change them. Instead of focusing on their behavior, shift your focus inward. Ask yourself, what am I willing to tolerate? What are my boundaries? Boundaries are not about controlling someone else's actions. They're about defining what you will and won't accept in your life. They're a way of communicating to yourself and others that you value your peace, your energy, and your self-respect. When you set boundaries and enforce them, you're taking control of your response. You're saying, I cannot stop you from doing what you want, but I won't allow it to affect me. This doesn't mean setting boundaries is easy. It often requires courage to stand up for yourself, especially if you fear conflict or losing the relationship. But remember, every time you let someone cross a boundary without consequence, you're teaching them that their behavior is acceptable. On the other hand, every time you enforce a boundary, you're affirming your own worth. You're showing yourself in the world that you refuse to settle for less than you deserve. Choosing how you respond also means taking responsibility for your emotions. This doesn't mean ignoring your feelings or pretending everything is fine. It means acknowledging your hurt, anger, or disappointment without letting those emotions dictate your actions. When you let your response come from a place of clarity and self-respect, rather than reactivity, you regain control over the situation. You can decide whether to address the issue, distance yourself, or let it go. What matters is that your response aligns with your values and priorities, not with the actions of the other person. Another important aspect of taking control of your response is understanding the power of walking away. Sometimes the most empowering response is to remove yourself from a situation or relationship that no longer serves you. This doesn't mean you're giving up or that you've failed. On the contrary, walking away is often the ultimate act of self-respect. It's a way of saying, I deserve better than this, and I'm not afraid to let go of what isn't right for me. Walking away doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself enough to prioritize your well-being. Taking control of your response also involves forgiveness, not for them, but for yourself. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning someone's behavior or inviting them back into your life. It means releasing the anger and resentment that can weigh you down and cloud your judgment. When you forgive, you're not letting them off the hook. You're freeing yourself from the burden of carrying their mistakes. Forgiveness is a powerful way to reclaim your peace and move forward without being tethered to the pain of the past. Ultimately, your response is a reflection of your values, not theirs. When you respond with dignity, self-respect, and integrity, you're showing the world and yourself who you truly are. You're saying, I cannot control others, but I can control how I let them affect me. I can choose to rise above, to protect my energy, and to prioritize my peace. This is the essence of personal power, knowing that while you can't change others, you can always choose to rise above their actions and stay true to the person you want to be. Your life is yours to shape. While you can't stop others from mistreating you, you can choose to surround yourself with people who uplift and respect you. You can choose to enforce your boundaries, to walk away when necessary, and to focus on relationships that bring you joy and growth. You have the power to decide what you will and won't accept. And that power is what defines your response. No matter what others do, you are in control of your life, your peace, and your happiness. Going back to someone who has already broken you is an act of self-abandonment. It's a choice to ignore your worth, your boundaries, and the lessons life has tried to teach you. When someone breaks you, whether it's through betrayal, neglect, or consistent mistreatment, they show you who they are and how they value you. And as much as it may hurt, the truth is clear: they didn't honor the trust, love, or effort you gave them. To return to that same person is to risk reliving the same pain, perhaps even deeper this time, because you've already seen the evidence of their choices. People don't change just because you want them to. Change is a deeply personal process that requires self-awareness, accountability, and a genuine desire to grow. Someone who hurt you in the past doesn't automatically become a better person just because time has passed or because you've forgiven them. If they haven't taken the steps to understand the impact of their actions, apologize sincerely, and show through consistent effort that they've changed, then returning to them is like reopening a wound that hasn't fully healed. It's giving them another chance to repeat the same behavior that broke you before. When you go back to someone who has hurt you, you're not only risking more pain, you're also sending a message. You're telling them, consciously or unconsciously, that their actions were acceptable. You're showing them that you're willing to tolerate behavior that undermines your worth. People treat you the way you allow them to treat you. By going back to someone who didn't value you're setting a precedent that your boundaries and feelings are negotiable. Over time, this erodes your self-esteem and creates a cycle of diminishing self-worth. It's crucial to understand that love in its healthiest form is not supposed to hurt. Love is not about enduring pain or proving your loyalty through suffering. Real love uplifts, supports, and nurtures you. It respects your boundaries, values your feelings, and prioritizes your well-being. If someone has already broken you, then their version of love was incomplete, selfish, or flawed. Returning to them often means accepting a lesser version of what you truly deserve, all for the hope that they might change. But hope is not a strategy, and love should never be based on potential. It should be based on action. The pull to return to someone who broke you often comes from a place of fear or longing. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, or fear that you'll never find someone better. Longing for the connection you once had, for the good times that might have existed before the hurt. These feelings are powerful, but they're not reliable guides. Fear clouds your judgment and convinces you to settle for less than you deserve. Longing romanticizes the past, making you focus on the good moments while minimizing the pain. Neither of these emotions reflects the reality of what that relationship cost you. It's also important to acknowledge the role of nostalgia and emotional attachment. When you've shared significant moments with someone, it's natural to feel a sense of attachment to them. You might think about the laughter, the late-night conversations, or the times when things felt perfect. But attachment is not a reason to stay. Attachment is not love. And attachment certainly isn't worth sacrificing your peace and self-respect. The memories you hold dear are only one part of the story. The pain, the betrayal, and the breaking of your trust are equally important chapters. Walking away from someone who has broken you is not an easy choice. It requires strength, clarity, and a commitment to prioritizing yourself. But every time you choose to stay away, you're choosing to honor your growth. You're choosing to believe that you deserve better. And you do. There are people in this world who will love you without conditions, who will treat you with the respect and care you've always deserved. But you'll never find them if you keep holding on to someone who has already proven they're not capable of giving you that. Walking away is not an act of weakness, it's an act of self-respect. It's recognizing that the person you need most in your life is yourself. It's about choosing peace over chaos, dignity over desperation, and self-love over self-sacrifice. But it's understanding that staying with someone who has broken you doesn't heal the pain, it prolongs it. True healing comes from letting go, from creating space for better relationships, and from focusing on your own growth and happiness. The person who broke you may never fully understand the impact of their actions. They may never apologize or take responsibility. But their inability to recognize your worth doesn't define you. You don't need their validation to move forward. Your worth is not contingent on their behavior or their opinion of you. Your worth is inherent, unshakable, and yours to protect. Every time you choose not to go back, you're reinforcing the belief that you deserve better. You're setting a standard for how you want to be treated and teaching yourself that you are worth the effort, respect, and love you seek. This is how you break the cycle of hurt. This is how you reclaim your power. Because the truth is, someone who has already broken you doesn't hold the key to your healing, you do. The moment you decide to prioritize yourself over the fear, the attachment, or the longing is the moment you truly start to heal. Reopening the door to someone who has already hurt you is like willingly stepping back into a storm you just escaped. Pain, once inflicted, leaves a scar, a memory, and an imprint on your soul. Choosing to return to the same source of that pain risks not only reopening old wounds, but deepening them. Emotional pain is not static when revisited. It often grows, evolves, and intertwines with new layers of heartbreak. Returning to someone who has broken you often doesn't mend the hurt, it multiplies it, making the recovery process even harder and longer the second time around. Healing from emotional pain is a journey that demands time, energy, and immense courage. When someone has hurt you deeply, your focus should be on rebuilding your strength, reclaiming your sense of self, and finding peace. But when you go back to someone who caused the pain, you disrupt this process. It's like tearing down the progress you've made, undoing the healing you've worked so hard to achieve. You place yourself in a position to relive the same disappointment, heartbreak, and frustration that you were trying to move past. It becomes a cycle that keeps you trapped, unable to fully move forward or escape the pain. There's a reason why the past is behind you. It's meant to teach you, guide you, and shape your future, not to hold you hostage. When someone has broken your trust or hurt you deeply, they've already shown you the limits of their character, their priorities, and their ability to value you. Their actions have spoken louder than words ever could. To return to them is to disregard those lessons, to overlook the red flags, and to gamble with your emotional well-being in the hope that things might be different this time. But hope is not a guarantee, and without tangible, proven change on their part, the likelihood of history repeating itself is far too high. Returning to someone who has broken you also sends a powerful message to them, to yourself, and to the world. To them, it signals that their actions had no real consequences, that they can hurt you and still have access to you. It diminishes the weight of your boundaries and makes it easier for them to repeat their behavior without fear of losing you. To yourself, it signals that your pain is negotiable, that your worth is something you're willing to compromise on. It reinforces the false belief that you don't deserve better, that this is the best you can hope for. And to the world, it signals that you're willing to accept less than what you deserve, which can attract more relationships that mirror this pattern of hurt. Pain changes you. It forces you to see things differently, to reevaluate your relationships, and to grow in ways you might not have anticipated. But for that growth to take root, you must let go of the source of the pain. Going back to someone who has hurt you often means regressing, returning to a version of yourself that accepted less than you deserved. It's a step backward when you should be moving forward. Growth requires distance from what broke you, not closeness to it. It requires the courage to prioritize your healing over your longing and your self-respect over your fear of loss. It's natural to feel conflicted about walking away from someone who once meant so much to you. Emotions like love, nostalgia, and hope can blur your judgment, making it hard to see the situation clearly. But love should never come at the cost of your peace, self-worth, or emotional health. Love, in its truest form, is kind, respectful, and uplifting. If someone's love has brought you more pain than joy, more doubt than security, and more tears than laughter, then it's not the kind of love you deserve, and it's not the kind of love you should return to. There's also the harsh reality that not everyone you care for is capable of loving you the way you need. Some people lack the emotional maturity, self-awareness, or capacity to treat you with the respect and care you deserve. That doesn't mean they're inherently bad people, but it does mean they're not the right people for you. It's not your responsibility to fix them, to wait for them to change, or to endure their mistakes in the hope that they'll eventually get it right. Your responsibility is to yourself to protect your heart, honor your worth, and create space for relationships that uplift and support you. Revisiting a broken relationship is also an act of self-doubt. It stems from a fear that maybe you're not worthy of better, that this is as good as it gets, or that you're being unreasonable for wanting more. But those fears are lies. You are worthy of love that doesn't hurt, of trust that isn't betrayed, and of respect that doesn't waver. You don't have to settle for someone who has already shown you their capacity to break you. Settling doesn't lead to happiness, it leads to more heartache. Every time you choose to stay away, you're choosing yourself. You're choosing to believe in your worth, to prioritize your peace, and to trust that better things are ahead. Walking away doesn't mean you're weak or unforgiving. It means you're strong enough to let go of what isn't right for you. It's a declaration that you deserve more than the pain of reliving the past. It's a step toward freedom, growth, and the possibility of finding love and relationships that truly honor who you are. Pain teaches you to value your peace. It shows you what you won't tolerate, what you need to thrive, and how important it is to protect your heart. When someone has broken you, their chapter in your story is meant to end, not to be rewritten. Returning to them only delays the conclusion you already know you need. It keeps you anchored to a version of your life that no longer serves you, preventing you from stepping into the future you deserve. The reality is that when someone has already broken you, staying connected to them can result in deeper emotional damage than you realize. The damage caused by betrayal, neglect, or mistreatment doesn't simply fade away after time. It lingers, affecting your emotional state and your perception of yourself. Returning to that person can create a cycle where the hurt doesn't heal, but only intensifies, because when you go back, you're reopening wounds that need time and space to heal properly. People can only treat you the way you allow them to, and by returning to someone who has already broken you, you are often unconsciously signaling that their behavior was acceptable, or at least tolerable. In doing so, you lower your standards and compromise your boundaries. You allow them to see that their actions didn't have lasting consequences, which makes it easier for them to continue treating you poorly. This, in turn, erodes your self-respect and makes it harder for you to stand firm in the future when someone else crosses your boundaries. What many don't realize when they return to a broken relationship is the deeper emotional toll it takes. The first time they hurt you, the wound was fresh, and perhaps you hoped for change, believed in reconciliation, or thought the pain was something you could overcome with time. But the second time, after you've experienced the pain once already, it's much harder to ignore. The disappointment cuts deeper. Your ability to trust in that person, in the relationship, and sometimes even in yourself diminishes. When someone breaks you once, you are faced with the question, can this relationship be repaired? The second time you return, you are faced with the painful realization that the cycle of hurt is likely to continue, and that perhaps this person is incapable of offering you the respect and care that you need. Returning to someone who has broken you also undermines your ability to fully process and heal from the initial hurt. It delays the healing process by forcing you to constantly revisit old emotions instead of moving forward. When you re-enter the same toxic dynamic, you are actively choosing to remain stuck in a pattern that prevents growth. Healing requires space and distance from what caused the harm, and you cannot heal fully if you're constantly subjecting yourself to the same painful experience. This constant back and forth keeps you emotionally entangled, preventing you from finding the peace and clarity necessary for moving on. This cycle of emotional damage often leads to a feeling of hopelessness or a belief that this person is the only one who can provide the love or connection you seek. It's natural to long for the connection you once had, to hope that things will be different if you just try harder or give them another chance. But the reality is that someone who has hurt you repeatedly has shown you their capacity to disappoint, and sometimes it is not a reflection of your lack of effort, but their inability to change. They may not have the emotional maturity, the self-awareness, or the willingness to respect you the way you deserve. By continuing to return to them, you're delaying your own growth and settling for less than what you deserve. The truth is that once someone has broken you, it's crucial to understand that forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean returning to that person. Forgiving someone for their actions is not about excusing their behavior or pretending the pain didn't exist. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself from the emotional weight of their wrongdoing. It's a process that helps you release anger, bitterness, and resentment so that you can move on without being trapped by the past. But this does not require you to go back to the source of the pain. Forgiveness, at its core, is an act of self-liberation. It's a decision to let go of the grip the other person has on your emotions, to stop allowing their actions to dictate how you feel or behave. When you forgive, you reclaim your emotional freedom. You are not saying what they did was right, nor are you allowing them back into your life. You're simply choosing to stop letting their wrongdoing control your future. By forgiving, you are healing yourself, taking back your peace, and releasing the hold their actions have on your mental and emotional state. But when you forgive and return to the person who broke you, you are sending the message that their behavior is acceptable and that your feelings can be disregarded. Forgiveness becomes a cycle where you are continually hurt because you've allowed the person to return to the same patterns of behavior without consequences. You are giving them the power to hurt you again, undermining the very process of forgiveness that was meant to set you free. The act of forgiveness is about healing yourself, but the decision to return to someone who has broken you makes it harder for you to heal in the first place. Furthermore, forgiveness is not about inviting someone back into your life just because they ask for it or because you feel obligated to give them another chance. It's about letting go of any resentment so that you are not constantly carrying their mistakes with you. You do not have to return to them to show that you've forgiven. You can forgive someone from a distance without bringing them back into your personal space or emotional world. It's about creating the space to heal, to protect yourself, and to move forward. Returning to someone who has already hurt you can disrupt this process and keep you from fully embracing the healing that forgiveness offers. It's also important to recognize that forgiveness doesn't mean you have to forget the damage done. True forgiveness is not about erasing the past, it's about acknowledging it and choosing not to let it hold you back. You can forgive someone and still choose not to tolerate further mistreatment. Forgiveness frees you from the weight of the past, but it doesn't mean you should disregard your own well-being. Returning to someone who has already broken you means putting yourself in a position where the past can repeat itself, and your forgiveness becomes a shield for their bad behavior rather than a tool for your growth. Forgiveness is a powerful and necessary act for your own peace of mind, but it doesn't require you to put yourself back in harm's way. It's about finding the strength to move on, to learn from the past, and to refuse to settle for a relationship that compromises your emotional health. When you forgive, you are giving yourself the freedom to heal and create space for better things. The ultimate goal is to find peace, not to return to the pain of what once was. In the end, returning to someone who has already broken you is a decision that jeopardizes your growth, your self-worth, and your peace. While it's natural to long for the connection or the hope of reconciliation, the truth remains that relationships built on hurt, betrayal, or neglect cannot offer the love, respect, and security you deserve. Forgiveness is a powerful tool for healing, but it should never be confused with returning to a toxic dynamic that continuously undermines your well-being. The most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. Choosing to move forward, to prioritize your emotional health, and to never go back to someone who has broken you is a profound act of self-respect. You are worthy of love, joy, and fulfillment that doesn't come with pain or compromise. Letting go of what no longer serves you opens the door to the future you deserve, one filled with growth, happiness, and a love that uplifts you rather than tears you down. Your strength lies in your ability to recognize your worth, set boundaries, and make choices that honor your journey toward healing and fulfillment. Thank you